Hi, I'm Othais, and this is the Italian-made, Japanese-issued, mostly Carcano Type I, though there are some other names that have turned up over the years. We'll cover those and more after we get this guy into the light box. With an overall length of 50.4 inches and weighing in at 9.3 pounds, this is almost more of a First World War rifle than a second, and yet it came along fairly late. The magazine capacity is 5 rounds of the 6.5 Type 38 Japanese cartridge. These were fed by a stripper clip. Before we get into today's story, I have to remind you there are very few ways for us to shill for easy cash when dealing with an entirely used topic. So we don't. Instead, almost all of our funding comes from you, the sort of person who wants to hear more in-depth firearms history. So if you're enjoying this work, please consider kicking in a couple of bucks. Thankfully, despite social media censorship in our particular industry, and on the complete opposite end of marketing addictive microtransaction cell phone games that no one really needs, we do have some additional support from a legitimately useful universal gun oil, Ballistol. For everything antique, this is practically the factory default, but don't just trust me.
Sam said, I used it to clean up an old camp stove a coworker gave me. It worked like a charm, and the only result was my fishing camping trip included fresh cooked food. Ballistol, a delight in peace and harmony. Alex said, on the subject of Ballistol, I've used it on everything, from my guns and tools to my leather, and even open cuts with no ill effects. It is truly a miracle oil. Tauflatermouth said, Ballistol cured him of both a broken arm and a broken contract. No idea what that's about.
Now, this unusual chimera of an Italian rifle and Japanese fixtures is actually almost medieval, in that it is truly a child of a political marriage. The lead-up is a bit involved, but somewhat necessary to understand the Japanese perspective. Around the turn of the century, Japan was a nation racing to leapfrog from a feudal society into a fully industrialized and militarized world power. Their success was frankly unprecedented in history, but just because you have the technology and the capability, it does not mean that you have the respect of your world-spanning peers. To the European powers, Japan still wasn't on the stage with them. Defeating Qing Dynasty China in the First Sino-Japanese War of 1894 and 5, Japan gained quite a bit of territory and a number of concessions. One of these was a leased territory known as Guangdong, part of the Liaodong Peninsula, and home to a useful warm-weather port. Just weeks after this agreement, however, Europe intervened, specifically Russia, Germany, and France, who decried the harsh terms imposed on the Qing following their war with Japan. The truth, however, is these nations did not like Japan's expansion into mainland China. Russia was particularly upset as they had already had eyes on that same port. France joined for economic reasons, and Germany for political ones. Japan was forced to concede, however, in less than a decade, they would have their chance again. During the Russo-Japanese War, Russia went from being surprised that Japan had beaten China to surprised that Japan had beaten them, senseless. This, of course, saw the territory return to Japan. In 1906, a security force was created to secure the Guangdong leased territory and South Manchurian Railway. This force grew repeatedly over the coming years as an outgrowth of the Japanese expansion into mainland China. In 1919, it became the Kanto Gun, a general army under the Imperial Japanese Army. This now remote army soon began to behave under its own discretion, often acting in direct violation of its nominal superiors at the Imperial General Headquarters. In 1928, the Guangdong Army assassinated Manchurian warlord Zhang Zuolin, and in 1931 engineered a false flag incident as a pretext to invade Manchuria. With that region secured, Japan attempted to soothe international outcry by establishing a puppet government, with Manchuria becoming Manchukuo. It was supposed to be a republic, and to make it nice and legitimate, they installed the last of the Qing Manchu emperors as chief executive. This was, of course, Puyi, who as a child was forced to abdicate China in 1912. He was briefly restored in 1917, but that lasted about a month. In 1934, the pretense of a republic was abandoned, and Puyi was declared Emperor of Manchukuo. None of this did much to curb international criticism. The problem was acute enough that Japan withdrew from the League of Nations. Their own army was essentially running amok on the mainland, and if Europe decided to intervene, the proper Japanese army and navy would actually be the ones to first bear the brunt of the problems. So policy was put forward to seek out European allies that would back their expansion and stall off any of those reactions from opposition. Thankfully for the Japanese, they soon found grounds for a pact with Germany, who appreciated their anti-communist influence in the Asian sphere. Germany also had tired of the League of Nations and their bias towards England and France. For Japan, this was a good arrangement, as it not only gave them a European partner, but also Germany had been a major arms supplier to the Chinese mainland forces. Their anti-Comintern pact was signed in November of 1936. It's worth noting that arms contracts, including rifles, followed shortly thereafter, though those are not our story for this particular episode. Instead, I have to point out that this is Italy, another country dominated at the time by an anti-communist government. Though curiously aligned with the French, well, until they fell out over the matter of the Second Italo-Ethiopian War, which had begun in late 1935. This proved to be Italy's Manchuria, drawing criticism from various nations and consequently pushing them closer to Germany. Now, all this didn't happen in an instant. As part of the wooing of Italy, Germany and Japan made various offers, one of which seems to have been related to our rifle today, at least indirectly. The Japanese Defense Ministry opened up negotiations with the Italian government in February of 1937 to secure commerce treaties between Italy and the state of Manchukuo for various arms and related goods. This would accomplish several goals all at the same time. First, it would legitimize the Manchukuo puppet state. Second, it would provide financial incentive for Italy to join the pact. And third, it would secure additional resources for the Japanese army and navy. The initial products were not rifles, but 72 Fiat BR-20 airplanes, along with spare parts and munitions. The financial and political incentives finally tipped the scale, and Italy joined the anti-Comintern in November of 1937, recognizing Manchukuo and even shipping the first plane parts that same month. Shortly after, in early 1938, the Japanese Defense Ministry reached out to the Italian government for another military contract for the Manchukuo government. It's fairly likely that this second order was already promised before the pact was signed, and this was just Japan coming through. This time, the request was for approximately 130,000 rifles. They must be chambered for the 6.5 by 50mm Japanese Type 38 cartridge, except the standard Type 30 bayonet, and keep the same general layout so that the rifles would be interchangeable with the then standard Type 38 rifle, at least in their manual of arms, as these were supposed to be training rifles for the Manchukuo government. Whether or not that was ever Japan's true intention is unknown. Just to quickly review, by the way, this is the Type 38 we're referring to, commonly called the Arisaka, because it used a Spitzer version of the original Type 30 rifle's 6.5 cartridge. It also used the same Type 30 bayonet and overall external configuration. The Type 38's efficient and rugged action was actually developed by Kejiro Nambu. Japanese expansion meant that they were often short of rifles despite attempts to bolster domestic manufacture. Generally, this problem was offset by using various inferior blank fire rifles or conversion of captured rifles to offset the need for infantry long arms at the lowest level, say the training level. This new Italian contract long arm, however, was intended to be field ready, though it wasn't meant for the front lines. The empire set aside 10 million yen for the project. Fabbrica d'Armi Reggio Esercito, Terni, the state arms factory in Terni, took up designing the new rifle to Japan's specifications, ultimately offering two possibilities around May of 1938. Option 1 was a Carcano 1891 rechambered to 6.5 by 50 and stocked as much as possible to resemble the Japanese Type 38. It still used the Carcano's Mannlicher style end block clip. This would cost Japan some 65 yen per rifle and could be ready for first deliveries in just 9 months. The second option was much the same, though the Mannlicher's distended single-stack magazine was replaced with a Mauser-style staggered flush-fit example. This, of course, made use of Japan's existing Mauser-style stripper clips. The cost per rifle rose to 75 yen apiece, with deliveries to begin in 1 year's time. Japan opted for the second model. The final details were sorted out in September of 1938, with production starting immediately afterwards. The result was, of course, well, this rifle here. So let's go ahead and get a closer look. All right, we have a fairly long rifle. And let me tell you, right up until you saw that receiver, you would have thought that this was a Japanese Type 38, wouldn't you? Let's get up at the front. Now, I don't have the cleaning rod. It was nearly identical to the Type 38s, although not quite the same. So unfortunately, I can't just shove a Type 38 in there and have it retain. We have the same barrel diameter as the Type 38 instead of as the Carcano, and we have a press-on front sight that, again, clones out the Japanese style. We have a windage adjustable front sight, although that is at the armor level. And then, of course, our retaining system is that Mauser style of press and clip front lug, which is a handover, again, from the Japanese. If we come back, we have a Japanese style swivel and mid-band with, again, spring retention. If we keep coming back, we have a half-length handguard on top, finger groove that is not quite the same, but very similar to the Japanese setup. I have noticed, if I bring out my Type 38 that I have an example of here, that seems to have been where they weren't as concerned as getting it just right. It tends to be shallower, it tends to be shorter. But, you know, looking at the two, especially if we move it back up towards that front, this is kind of a technical feat. I mean, yeah, come on, guys. You wouldn't know the difference until we got further down. The rear sight is, again, exactly the same. So let me pop that up. We have a flat ladder that is graduated up to 2,400 meters, slide adjustable. Of course, you would do that in the vertical position, but you guys can't really see that well. You can, however, see our fixed sights, which would be used across the entire folded position. This is not a tangent adjustable, although it is not laying flush until you get her on back. The trigger guard and trigger are not quite the same as the Type 38. They're very, very similar. They work the same way, but as you can tell, this is a little smaller. It's a little more delicate looking at the bottom, a little thicker in this cross section, but you know, we're close enough, and frankly, you might even consider it an improvement as there's more room for a gloved finger in there. It also serves the same utility in that we have a button at the front that allows us to release the magazine foreplate and the follower, which is just a flat spring, and yeah, you guys get the idea. This is all a hand-me-down from the Mauser that went through the Arisaka family. If I get that back in there, we should be able to pop that right back in for easy field service. If we keep moving down, we have a semi-pistol grip stock, unlike the Carcano, and again different, we've gone ahead and done a two-piece construction. Even though this doesn't appear to be made with the local Japanese woods, I believe it's some sort of European walnut, certainly stronger than what was available, and yet they probably insisted on the same construction, as this two-piece stock is actually very strong and conserves materials. This construction allows you to have a narrower piece of wood for the entire stock length, and then a separate piece of wood that you can then dovetail in, and it's frankly attached in place by screws through here, I believe one, and then you get another connection with the butt plate tying this together at the rear. So not a bad setup, actually. And again, not Carcano at all. Butt plate is fairly standard Japanese style as well, steel with no trap. The butt stocks for the Type I came in two lengths, one about an inch shorter than the other. Mine is clocked right against the Type 38, so I believe it is of the standard configuration. But you may see one that cooks a little bit further back. This was likely done in order to allow soldiers some room for personal comfort when being assigned to, say, someone more long-armed or shorter-armed. Really, the only thing that makes this not a Type 38 is the fact that it is a Carcano. The action is a split bridge, Schlegel milk descended Mannlicher style that was modified by the Italians. We have a whole updated episode on that. The safety is totally different in that you have to press in on this thumb pad, rotate it over, and then you're free. When you pull the trigger, yeah, she doesn't go off, but also it doesn't actually lock the system up like you would think. It's just sort of free floating with no spring tension. We have a whole discussion about that. If I put this guy back into fire, which is more difficult to do for the camera than it is in person, I will say the texturing here is very sharp even compared to the Carcanos I've known. And then if we get this guy open, we'll see that the way to remove the bolt is the same as the Carcano, not the Arisaka, so no Mauser style release on this side. We just pull the trigger and the bolt comes on out. Because of the difference in cartridge, the bolt is also different from the Carcano. With a Carcano bolt here, 6.5, and a 6.5, Arisaka Type 38 cartridge on this side, we'll see, there's some differences. This is overall a little bit bigger in the breech face, and if you look down inside, it's flush, whereas on this side, we have that little ring. That relief ring was put into these guns earlier on in their lives in order to prevent case head separations and failures at the rear of the case. Presumably the Japanese didn't need this feature, and also by the time of the late 1930s, metallic cases were far improved from the time of adoption of this guy. They both use the overhand extractor of the later Carcano type, and they both have that slotted ejector. However, you can see on the original, it's off to the side. On here, it's more centrally located, which also means a corresponding change to the trigger group in which that ejector is mounted more centrally to the rifle, but not a major enough feature to go digging for. Otherwise, the bolt's just the same as the Carcano. It even disassembles the same way. You just have to decock and then push your safety in, rotate it over, and then bring her around, find the groove, and boom, you're out. It's worth noting this is a later type Carcano bolt body that doesn't have the relief notch to help you find that position for removing the firing pin and cocking piece assembly. One of the more unusual things about these rifles is that they don't have any markings, or at least obvious markings, other than the serial number with its prefix. These can be loosely assigned to the manufacturers, we'll talk about that in a moment, but generally nothing else. I have heard of one example with a naval anchor marking, but I wasn't able to see it myself. Now, I will say some small parts, like this case the bolt, may have a manufacturer marking, but this is a little bit of an exception and also not what you consider a major, advertised marking. This is more of an inspection mark. As for how the gun actually works internally, well, if you've seen our Carcano episode, that's basically it. Just pair that in your mind with the magazine from our Type 38 episode. Since we don't need a unique animation, I can go ahead and hand this right over to Mae for demonstration. That is very weird. Now, as I said before, production started around November of 1938, lasting only for a year. The order was for 130,000 rifles, which cost 9.6 million yen. The 400,000 yen balance was spent on aircraft munitions. The barrels were produced by Terni, which then shipped them to 3 subcontracted factories. Each factory was apparently given a section of serial prefixes, though some exceptions of those sections seem to have turned up. With a 4-digit serial number, every time they hit 9,999, the series began again with the next letter of the alphabet as a prefix. Over half of production was assigned to Sezione Fabbrica d'Armi Reggio Esercito Gardon Valtrompia, who received the serial prefix ranges of A through F. The remaining production was split between Pietro Beretta, also of Gardon, and Fabbrica Nazionale d'Armi in Brescia. In theory, their prefixes break down as follows, though there is some speculation that this was slightly biased towards FNA. The rifles are not marked visibly by their manufacturer, not when assembled, though some small parts do have their own inspection markings. FNA examples do turn up with the manufacturer's logo and 2-digit serial year marked under the receiver, hidden up under the stock. Completed rifles were shipped to SFARE Gardon, where they were inspected and tested both by the Italians and by inspectors of the Japanese Ordnance Commission. Overall, 6 shipments were sent to Japan, wrapping up in December of 1939. The final payment was made in March of 1940. The name collectors use for the rifle is Type I. This is an attempted translation of the most common Japanese designation. E model rifle. That first character E is in katakana, a phonetic alphabet reserved for foreign words. It was taken from the Japanese pronunciation of Italy, Italia. At the same time, another common way of writing this was with a phonetic use of kanji, Itari. So, in some Japanese documents, you might see E model rifle spelled like this. The longest and most descriptive name known is this, meaning Italian modified rifle. Not that the Italians modified it, but that they made it, and it was a modified rifle, likely meaning substitute in this case. The Type I designation has of course caused a lot of confusion in English text, as people assume it is the Roman numeral 1, and verbalize it as the Type 1. It might have been easier to just spell it out as the Type E with a big letter E. In most histories of the Type I rifle, we hear that Japan desperately needed foreign manufacture because their own arsenals couldn't keep up. The Kwantung and regular armies controlled production, and the Navy was left out. This is not entirely accurate. The extra rifles certainly help, but they weren't direct naval contracts, nor was the whole project established just to get more guns. It was part of a broader picture, a dowry on a political marriage. Now, of course, we all know these did not go to Manchukuo. Instead, they frankly seem to have wandered all over the Japanese sphere of influence. But for fun, let's list where we've heard that they have turned up. We'll start with the puppet states that did actually receive some of these rifles. Mengjiang, the Mongolian Autonomous Zone, the reorganized national government of the Republic of China, also known as the Wang Jingwei regime, which actually absorbed the Mengjiang. At least 100 were sent to the Nagoya Arsenal for guard duty. The Japanese Navy used them both as issue rifles and for training. Nearly 2,000 were captured from Marines in Shanghai. Collectors have reported small lots of Type I rifles being captured in the Philippines, the Kwajalein Atoll, Iwo Jima, Okinawa, and Peleliu. In the US, these souvenirs seem to largely be in excellent condition, likely indicating their use as second-line or non-combat rifles, or perhaps that no one wanted to bring home junk. I've been told some have turned up in later Chinese exports, shortened and rechambered for the 7.62 by 39mm cartridge. That's the Russian cartridge handed over to China by way of the SKS and other Soviet rifles. Those conversions were usually done to captured Type 38 rifles. They were used for basic training by the Chinese militia and are usually shot out to the point of being nearly smooth bore. Okay, that was a lot of data, but hopefully it was more interesting than the usual summary of Italy made these for Japan. Instead, this was a rifle born of a need for political legitimacy and even issued to other questionable countries in an attempt to secure a Japanese empire. Grandiose intentions aside, let's let Mae give us her opinion on the more practical matter of how it actually handles and shoots. Once more, we've made room for Mae.
Hi.
And we have room for this Italian-made, Japanese-issued Carcano Type I, or E.
Sure. Okay.
The E-type spaghetti rifle.
So we just did the Carcano episodes. Are you
Right.
is there some reason we are just continuing on with our Carcano-isms? Are we going to keep going with them after this?
I frankly got this rifle out to punish you.
Oh, okay.
Mae has a habit of making spaghetti. And her spaghetti is exactly the gun that you see here.
So, it
Would you like to tell them your
is.
recipe for spaghetti?
Well, I like that chicken-flavored ramen.
Yeah.
And then I make that, but I use the powder and stuff, and then I just pour spaghetti sauce on that. Just take all the liquid out, pour spaghetti sauce, and I'm happy. The noodles for the ramen, that spaghetti, delicious.
Now, tell me how this is different.
Delicious. No, okay, so if I cover this up, a lot of this just looks like an Arisaka. Closer to a Type 30, I would say. We've got the rear sight. We have a thin stock. It's long.
That's actually a really good thing to say right there, actually.
What, a Type 30?
Well, because we take for granted that Type 38 clones out the Type 30 in a lot of ways. And as a matter of fact, the Type 38 added a couple little things that
It did, yeah.
aren't on this in some ways. I don't see the relief for we don't see the stock relief for letting water back out and all this other stuff.
Oh, yeah, no, nothing's that pristine.
There's no dust cover. We have a split bridge receiver.
Yeah, with a semi-pistol grip.
Right. So actually, if you're looking at it, you would be forgiven to think that this was supposed to clone the Type 30, not the Type 38.
Right.
So, okay. I see where you're going with that.
But then, if I take my hand away, I go, what did they do to my boy? They just got some Carcano on here. They just made Carcano. Everything else Japan. But sad Japan.
So, compared to the Type 30, smart move.
Sure.
Except for
with that.
the fact that the Italians made it.
It's really dense. I don't remember the Type 30 being this dense.
Let's work that action real quick. Let's see. Let's see the precision.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's grindy.
That wasn't even decocked.
I know. That was just really grindy. Oh, it's gross. It's not even filthy. It's just Carcano.
So you just spent all that time saying that the Carcano is not that bad in our Carcano Redux episode.
Yeah.
You want to take any of that back now that it's in a Type 38 package and confusing the crap out of you?
You know, honestly, it just kind of makes me want a Type 30 instead. Because you just handle it and you go, oh, this should feel amazing. And then you go to work the action and you go, nothing about this is Japanese.
Credit to the Italians. I will go to my grave saying that the Carcano is a better design than the Type 30. It's simpler. It's easier to get apart. It doesn't
cheaper.
You can't tell me that the way those couplers at the back of the Type 30 are manufactured is any easier than this whole bolt. You know what I mean? However, the polish just isn't there.
No.
I really, this rifle has made me wonder what would happen if you had the Japanese manufacture Carcanos for the Italians.
Oh, that would be amazing.
That's what I want to know.
They'd have to feel like glass.
Because I want to know what happens when you make like a good Carcano, a high quality Carcano.
I'd love to feel that actually.
Because it's a very simple gun.
And this one in general, feeding rounds, I remember the first several just kept snagging and catching under the bolts. I'd have to bolt for it. Nope, I didn't catch it. Okay, there we go. It's almost as if is the mag spring on this one really sad and soft too? Everything about this just giving up, I guess.
Okay, so I guess it feels like a Type 38. When you shoulder it, how does it feel when you shoulder it?
Way too heavy and dense.
Yeah, it's long and heavy.
There's so much weight resting into my left hand. And the balance point...
right in the middle of the gun.
Yeah, kind of.
How's the sights?
I mean, wide V-notch rear with, what is a barleycorn front.
Yeah.
That's okay.
It's Japanese.
Yeah, very Japanese.
How's the trigger?
You know, I know it's an average two-stage military trigger. However, there's a lot of lopiness to this one that there's like 4 different clunks in there that I can feel that aren't comfortable.
The Carcano has stuff moving in there.
Oh, yeah, no, it reminds me of that. Trust me, I didn't forget.
And we already said the bolt's not the smoothest.
No.
So this is a sample of 1, but we had a couple misfeeds where you're like, okay, get in there.
And then only 5 shots. I don't have 6 anymore. What happened?
Yeah,
I like that
down
extra
around.
6th round.
So let me put it to you this way. This versus Type 38.
Type 38.
Okay? This versus Carcano 1891.
Is there really an improvement over that?
So this is the problem.
I'm just trying to think, is there really an improvement
if I told you, hey, I'm going to give you a Carcano, right? But it's going to have a semi-pistol grip stock. It's going to be fitted out like a Japanese rifle.
Uh-huh.
And it's going to have a staggered flush magazine with stripper clips.
Right.
You would probably say, like I would, oh, that sounds a lot better.
Right.
But then
actual handling, you go, wow, this is worse. It feels worse than the 91 by a long shot, actually.
The cartridges are relatively similar, although you...
So I was trying to think if 6.5 Jap was a little bit better.
Well, it is a Spitzer.
Right.
So you would get a Spitzer cartridge, which the Italians never did.
Okay.
How is the recoil on this, by the way?
Very minimal. Honestly, I had a hard time telling the difference.
I think, I thought I had a Type 38 laying around.
You do, somewhere, I'm sure.
Well, I was going to compare for the feel, but never mind. We'll dig that out some other time. Do you feel like this is any better balanced or worse balanced than Type 38, just from memory?
No, I don't think so. Honestly, I think that this was worse, if I'm recalling from the Type 38.
There's a Type 38 behind you. I found it.
Okay.
Well, technically it's a Type 6.5, but it's the same rifle. We'll talk about it some other day. But if you want to, you're going to get it? Can you get it?
I'm trying to find it. How do you see it?
Right there. You're touching it.
Honestly, I had to look for this bayonet / that section right there, and then I noticed how thin this thing was, and I went, oh, that's got to be it.
Yeah, that is a early type. As a matter of fact, it's probably manufactured on the same equipment as the early Arisakas. Oh yeah, you forgot about that sort of cock on closey thing it does, didn't you?
Oh God, no! That just doesn't feel like it's functioning properly. Actually, that's not wanting to close. Tell me if I'm crazy on this one.
It's fine.
Okay, well, whatever. I'm a little tired. It's 4 a.m. Give me a break here.
No, you might have hit on it. This is cock on open versus cock on sort of close-ish open.
This was closer to the magwell for the balance. I kind of like that.
How's the weight? Throw it up on your shoulder?
A lot nicer. It doesn't feel nearly as dense.
Yeah, but this bolt's easier to run weirdly.
No.
Yeah, it's also, let's be honest, it's not as strong. The Type 38 Arisaka is one of the strongest rifles ever made.
Oh, yeah, it's very robust.
Very
and it feels
shallow.
very polished by comparison. Even the minimal handling I did just now, it's crazy the difference.
And it would have had a desk cover. This one doesn't have one fitted, but you get the idea. So, okay, you're picking this over. Mm-hmm. And then we were just arguing on paper that thing should be better than a 91 Carcano.
On paper.
But,
I will say the Carcano does load faster.
Yeah, 6-round end block. It fed better when the proper end blocks were in versus this that was supposed to be fine.
Oh, yeah, and then absolutely wasn't. And I'm not going to say this is a poor condition piece one either.
It's medium.
Yeah, it's okay. So it should have done better than what it did, and it still didn't.
I want this to be better than the Carcano, but I don't know that it is.
I don't think it is.
I think, unfortunately, it's not doing better than either of its contemporaries, although it should have been. On paper, it should have been better than 91. Mm-hmm. I just can't get there with it.
Yeah, no, me neither. It's unfortunate.
Well, on the
it
plus
dreamed
side,
and then failed.
On the plus side, it's weird.
It's certainly different. I'm glad that we got to test it out to kind of see what it actually felt like if you could try to combine. I was going to say two of the best worlds, but they're really not the best. Well, Japan
one of them was pretty dang good.
Yeah, and then just one of the best worlds with one of the cheapest worlds.
What happens when you just combine? I want to combine other rifles now.
Oh,
I don't know why, but
interesting.
This gun makes me this gun feels like somebody's alt history rifle.
Oh yeah, kind of like if they had a different history in general or a different country in general.
It's just mash up. Like, what do we put these two together? I want to do the LaBelle Springfield 1903. Let's go, boys.
So would that be a Springfield 03 with a magazine tube, or would that be a LaBelle with
a box magazine and weird Buffington sights?
Yeah.
Also, yes.
Ugh.
I know, right? It's awful.
One's good.
To be fair, we kind of saw something similar. We saw we keep saying Arisaka, but the Type 38 is more a Nambu rifle. Mm-hmm. So we saw sort of a Nambu / Mauser / Austrian cartridge, rim cartridge in the Thai Mauser episode.
Oh yeah.
So we've seen stuff kind of like this, but this
takes the cake on the mashups. This
is actually one of several funky rifles I want to cover. So just so you guys know what's coming, I really want to talk about like the Type 13 that's up there. Mm-hmm. And then I really want to talk about this Type 6.5 at some point too, because there's a lot of sort of Asian rifle history that's been not really dug into as much, at least publicly or in video.
Fair.
And I think it's fascinating.
I think there's a lot there to cover, and I think you'll cover it pretty well in depth.
I do think this rifle came out exactly like you'd expect. Mm-hmm. If I told you, hey, did you know that they made a rifle just to seal a deal between two countries and it didn't really matter what came out the other end?
Yeah, they didn't really care about the result. They were just like, nah, this is more just like, it's just something to do it together.
Yeah. I'm sorry it's a weird duck, but I'll go ahead and love it anyway.
It's an interesting marriage.
All right. We should have executive producers on this one. Would you like to read that out?
Jake B., who also apparently really likes weird rifles. He very specifically requested this episode.
Sort of. He got rolled a little bit because we were supposed to be doing another repercussion, but then that got all mixed up. And so
because the root is a bastard.
Yeah, so I said, here's what I got that's coming in the pipe right now while we fix the root problem.
I like this other weird one.
And
Let's
he goes,
go with that.
I'm going with that insanity. So, awesome.
Thank you for supporting our insanity.
We do have another executive producer who didn't technically say he wants to be one, but he earned it. So we're going to go with our buddy Anthony.
Yes, Anthony was most recently one on the podcast, actually.
Yeah, and he really saved our bacon because this has been a trying summer.
Yes, he saved us some actual literal time for our production schedule.
And I want to give special thanks to our buddy Diego, who has been actually backing me up on the Carcano episodes. I should have put him in there, but we had already filmed by the time he came around to give me help with those.
He's been basically going through and reviewing them for you and giving you some good notes.
When we did the rehash of the Carcano episodes, he got there for the preview. He hadn't gotten to me beforehand, or at least not in a way that got in my notes. So he hooked me up with a more contemporary research project where they've been getting a hold of original Italian documentation.
Awesome.
A lot of that is reflected in this episode. So this one, we actually talked to him before writing the episode. The others, it was us scrambling to edit the episodes after he told me we got something wrong, which is fun, but at least it was better than going public with wrong data. So Diego, thank you a lot for all the help. And you have now helped instruct a lot of people on what the heck was going on.
Which was a lot of weirdness.
All right, I think that's got us wrapped up, so we'll catch you guys next time.
Thanks, guys, for the support.
And I went, oh, okay, so I bend down to tighten that down. And luckily, it didn't just want to tighten down. It actually, the screws are gapped weird, and I have to go get a washer. So I'm down there for a minute going, what the heck's going on? And something catches my eye. And I realize there's two bolts that hold the right side swing arm on. One is sheared off.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, boy. Then I pull it apart, and I'm like, oh, it's steel and aluminum. I hate this. There's a replacement bolt of some sort. So I go to easy out it. And for the first time in my life, an easy out tore off.
We use the crap out
I recommend, nobody's ever paid me, those VTAC suspenders. I use them whenever I work outdoors. Like the little hook VTAC suspenders.
Yeah.
Oh my God, they're so great. Everybody buy them. Say I sent them. Maybe they'll give me some money. I don't care. But I use them anytime I got to go out to the property to do anything. And I got to do a bunch of bending and stuff, and I don't want my belt squeezing my stomach. I throw those things on under my shirt. Oh my God, so great. I really want to be wealthy. I found out that there's a bunker for sale in town.
Oh, yeah,
Over on Sullivan's Island, there's a World War II bunker that is beachfront. It is a beachfront World War II bunker for $5.5 million. And I went, $5.5 million? And I think it was 7,000 square foot in a artificial hill, reinforced concrete bunker on the beach. You guys you can look it up on Zillow.
It survived so much.
Yeah. If any of you have enough money to buy it, just invite me over. I want to see. It's in a beautiful location. I mean, it's unbelievably pretty out there.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just going, oh my God, I could live the Magnum PI life in a bunker. That's both of the things that I like, right?
Wait, does that mean you get a $60,000 Ferrari and two? Because that's what it was worth back then.
No, I want my scooters. I want to fill a bunker with nothing but guns and scooters and live on the beach. Now, that's not just because of the Italo-Turkish War, mind you. The Ottoman defeat also fed fuel to the fire of Balkan resistance. This, in turn, was seen as an opportunity by neighboring European powers, ultimately playing into the outbreak of World War I. Italy was, of course, a participant in the war. However, their entry was delayed. Formerly part of the Triple